Welcome to the Work Smarter podcast, where I get to highlight innovative lawyers who are working smarter, not harder. My name is Tom Martin. I'm the CEO and founder of LawDroid, and my guest today is Scott Talkov of Talkov Law. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great, Tom. I appreciate you having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming and being on the show. I'd like to ask you a little bit about your practice because I think it's kind of unique. You focus specifically in partition law, is that right?
That's right. I'm the first law firm, I believe, in the world to only do partitions.
And tell me a little bit about how that came together. Like why, like of real estate law and of like all of the different sub niches you could have gone after. Why specifically partitions?
Well, for the first 10 years of my practice, I did various areas of real estate and business law. And, it was fun, but I realized like occasionally I'd lose these cases and, maybe you lose 1 out of 10 times. In partitions, I had never lost a single case. They all got done in some reasonable amount of time. And I thought, oh, that's pretty nice. And I started doing more and more. And I saw other attorneys that had no idea what they were doing. And I don't know why this comes naturally. I mean, probably because I'm a real estate broker. At least I took my license after becoming an attorney. Took the broker exam. Um, I don't know why it's so hard for other attorneys, but it comes very naturally to me. So I really would love doing just this. I don't have to do those other areas that I'm okay at.
Well, to share with you, like I'm also licensed in California, and to be honest, my experience with partitions is it does seem like this ultra niche kind of like different thing that doesn't happen very often. And if somebody asked me, can you do this? I'd be like, I don't know.
So a lot of attorneys will fumble through it. A lot of your local real estate attorneys, they'll take them. And if you're a real estate attorney, you put yourself out on the internet as a real estate attorney, you'll probably get one case a year. And you'll learn a little bit here and a little bit there, but it's not going to go great. You're not going to be an expert. You're not even going to realize how little you know unless you really focus in on this practice and you see all the variations and you see them over and over again. You start developing these strategies and you use those same strategies from the last case on the next case. And clients get a better and better result every single time.
So how long have you been doing this?
Um, January 2nd of 2020 is when I started my law firm, Talkov Law Corp. We now have 7 attorneys and 7 full-time staff, and I think we have about 180 partitions going around the state of California. I've handled about 320 partitions, and it just gets easier and faster every single time.
Wow, let's unpack that because January 2020 is a very specific time frame where 2 months later, you know, COVID happens. We got like, 2.5 years of practically lockdown. And like, so you're growing the firm throughout all of that. How did you
Yes.
do it?
Well, technology is the key. So first of all, my marketing is primarily on the internet. So especially when you have a niche, it's hard to it's going to be hard to be just a partition attorney for Orange County or Riverside or somewhere else. If you advertise across the whole state, you can do this. You can bring in these types of cases and you can find them on the internet. Or even if you think you're going to just market by going to the chamber or knowing people or going to the bar association, that's great. But it's going to be really hard to find those niche cases that you can find on the internet. And so I run the website. Layla at my firm, my marketing director, helped develop it as well. And we have other people who have helped develop it. Colleen Talkov, one of the attorneys at my firm, my wife has also helped develop it. It's been great. And we say, oh my God, we happened upon this case. We know that there's other people with this exact problem. We know it. It's so repeatable. We blog about it. And what do you know? We get a call a few months later from somebody with that exact problem. And now, rather than try out different techniques, we just say that the same thing we did the last time that works really well. Maybe we vary it just a little bit. And so internet marketing has just really helped us.
So it
So
sounds
COVID, yeah, it would COVID, especially paperless, remote work. This is what people want.
so it sounds like one of the things that really helped to build success was focusing on this specific niche allowed you to get really familiar with it and to get it down to a science, right?
Yes, yeah, and when you get really good at something, you don't have too many failures. You're just not going to be surprised by, oh, that case wasn't as good as I thought. You start looking out, oh, wait a second. There might be a judgment that didn't show up on that property profile. Or this property might not be worth what I think it's worth because of this factor, or how much can a price vary? And oh gosh, if it does vary by 15%, there's no equity, right? So you got to start thinking about, boy, what do my whammies look like? How can I avoid them? And now I know how to pick a winner. I mean, so far, I've never had a single court deny my client a right to partition or find that they had waived a right to partition. And I know how to spot these cases. I know how to look for the good ones, ideally. And even if the cases turn out okay, I learn from that and I try to look for even better ones the next time.
I like that. Avoid the whammies.
And there's it happens every once in a while. Boy, this case was more expensive than I thought. I got to write down this bill. But it's so far in terms of the actual outcome, the clients get what they want. They're done with their co-ownership, and that's what they wanted.
And so it sounds like a related advantage, which you mentioned, was the fact that when you do market it, if you do educational marketing, it's a very specific topic. So like people are probably looking for answers to those specific questions online.
Yes, and if you do enough consults in the same area of law, you'll start hearing the same questions over and over again. And they'll ask, do I have to pay for this myself, or is it other side? Can I collect my fees from them? Maybe they'll ask, or how long is this going to take, or how much is it going to cost? And you see what their common questions are, and then now you can make that feed it right back to the public in blog post format, and say, well, gee, these are the questions you're probably thinking about. I know that because I've talked to 1,000 people in your situation.
Right. What would you say sets you apart from other firms that focus in this area?
Well, I was the first, and my good friend is now the second law firm to do just this practice area. And I think technology is what makes us different. It's very hard to really advance yourself in this modern world without really embracing technology, finding repeatable successes, and saying, "Gosh, this worked." Of course, with remote work, people really it's hard to find the talent that's within a drivable distance of your office. If you can expand that out using technology, using Zoom. I do a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of Zoom screen sharing meetings. It's just as effective, probably more effective than having the person right here in the same office. So there's just so many technologies out there that great companies are implementing and deploying. And I can get all the advantages of that I might not get if I had an in-person law firm or kind of an old paper-driven law firm or what have you.
I am curious though, was that something that you originally envisioned when you launched the firm, or is that something that came from COVID?
That definitely. So we started on January 1st, January 2nd of 2022. It was me and a paralegal. And I knew I needed help. I had a bustling practice at my prior law firm. And so I did actually think about somebody kind of coming in. I was hiring kind of around where my office was. And then COVID shut down and I said, wait a second. First of all, my paralegal just kind of up and left. I mean, she kind of asked me, I guess, but she was not going to be hanging out in the office anymore, given what was going on in the news. So she up and left and everything turned out just fine. And then I started saying, wait a second, maybe I should just hire. And I was kind of hiring, but we might be coming back. So I just want to let you know if things do return, we'll need to move somewhere in Southern California where my practice is based. And then that never came. And then I started, I think by late 2020, I was just hiring remotely entirely. I didn't care at all.
Yeah. Well, that's a really important skill, to be flexible, open-minded, and kind of, change with the times as things play out, which definitely for all of us, COVID was having that effect on us.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could share like a unique client story that emphasizes the strengths of your firm.
Absolutely. Perhaps our greatest success is one of our lawyer clients who hired us. He may be a lawyer, but he didn't know anything about partition. He was a personal injury lawyer. And his boyfriend of many years was also a lawyer, except his boyfriend was getting a really good gig. My client was paying the mortgage, and he was collecting all the Airbnb rent and living at this property by paying nothing. And this was going to go on into eternity. Luckily, I developed a really good strategy in describing the manner of the offsets and getting the case going. We had a referee appointed in a record 46 days in Los Angeles County. So that the referee in a partition is kind of the success moment. That's the moment where a third party has taken over the property under court authority, and now it's gonna be sold. So 46 days, this guy was just blown away. And my client was awarded more than 90% of the money, even though it was a 50-50 owner. And that is just a remarkable achievement. And it's all about, accounting and keeping track of the technology, things like, Excel and Google Sheets, and using that to calculate your numbers. Make sure you're on top of that. and keeping your eye on that rather than just kind of arguing over rights and wrongs, which I think a lot of attorneys get stuck
Hmm. So the Moneyball approach, right?
on. Exactly.
So let's dig a little deeper into that. What are some like innovative technologies or techniques that you've applied to your cases that have helped you to accomplish that?
Absolutely. Well, definitely, we really enjoy using Clio. It's a great practice management solution. There's other practice management solutions out there, but you have to use one. The idea that anybody could have a practice without one just blows my mind, and people still do that. Um, we use computer aided drafting, so that's really helpful for both the clients because they get a better result, they get a more predictable result. There's I can make a change and it'll happen system wide, and it's really good for the employees because niche practice they get a little sick of repetitive tasks. Although they can spot these partitions are a little bit different here, a little bit different there, but it can be repetitive when you're in niche practice. So making sure that you have technology that assists in the drafting is really important. And of course, we use a chatbot, which we really like. We like LawDroid, and it shows up on our website. No problems loading it. We even have had the assistance of Tom Martin to implement connecting it to our API, connecting it to our Clio Grow system, which is our intake system. So all of our custom fields can be input right through that system. It's been great. So we have from day one, from the moment that potential client is captured, we're already implementing technology to make it a better experience for the client, and ideally a more efficient and productive outcome for the firm as well.
Well, I appreciate that, Scott. And, I enjoyed putting it together. I think that, one of the value adds of any technology is that you could interlink with so many different, applications and so many different sources of information. So that way, you don't have to be doing any double entry or trying to remember, did I add it to this system or not? It's just done for you.
Mhm. It's great that it connects with Clio Grow and thinking about your intake system as the start of that customer experience, making sure all of your data is accurate. Did you spell their name right? Do you have their phone number right? Do you have everything right? So that it will help you in the case. In our case, is the property address, the facts about that property come right into our intake system, and they populate. And once they're a client, it's almost nothing left to do other than just produce the outcome. And we're able to do that by using technology in the intake process.
So you mentioned a little bit about how this has impacted your practice, like with with your staff members, but also I'm interested to know, like, how has this impacted or improved client satisfaction? Have you gotten any feedback from clients about it?
I think what I really enjoy is not getting the feedback. They don't. I mean, sometimes they tell me positive things, but generally they only reach out to me about complaints, and I don't hear from them very often. I don't hear from them that we've been waiting on that motion for a while, and that was that motion that we kind of had drafted from hand by hand, and the attorney had to get around to it by hand. And they would put that at the bottom of the stack. It's so boring when they've done it 15 times. And now with computer aided drafting, we can move that client faster. Maybe some paralegals can assist in that drafting and produce it to the attorney in a quality that was probably very similar to what they did. And they review it and they say, well, there was this one variation I hadn't thought about. I'm going to add it to this part, but other than that, this is exactly what I wanted. And so the employees really enjoy it. The clients really enjoy it. And every time, every case, every judge that gives us feedback, we learn from, and we're able to implement it system wide with technology that would be almost impossible to just train human beings endlessly on every variation. It's just not possible.
But I take your point, sometimes no news is good news.
No news is good news. Yeah.
Um, well, as a firm owner, you have a ton going on. And are there any tools or strategies that you employ to, manage your time more effectively?
That's a really good question, Tom. I think managing your time is about using technology effectively. Yes, could I just bill into eternity and just bill and get here at 6 in the morning and bill till 10 o'clock? I'm sure I could, but that's not the best use of my time. It's about working smarter, not harder. So some of the things we do is using artificial intelligence. Sometimes I'll ask a question to ChatGPT, And sometimes it's completely wrong, and some of its answers are bogus. They're called hallucinations. They're totally made up. I always check the work, but a lot of the times it's completely right, especially about programming, about how to use Excel and a formula. I don't want to know how to use Excel for this strange data set. I want it to tell me the formula. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Okay. And so I can manage my time. I can be done at 5 o'clock. I can, I'm not going to stay late. I'm going to get everything done in time. The integrations between LawDroid and Clio Grow and bringing in the data from day one is a great use of time, because then I can use that known data in our system to produce the outcome in the case, in a way that doesn't require me to check every single bit of work product for these repetitive pieces of data. I can trust that the technology might have even gotten it right more than I would get it right, which I really appreciate.
So on a personal note, I was curious what motivated you to start your own practice.
Well, actually, technology. I hate to sound like a broken record here, but I worked at an amazing firm, great firm, had a great trial lawyers. But sometimes it's actually very hard to implement technology at a firm that already has certain technologies in place. You have to make those pieces work within the existing ecosystem. I found that by starting on day one with the newest technologies, I was able to start from that point and build out from there. I didn't have to reach back into the certain pieces that they had, maybe dating back to, let's even say, the 90s. And that's tough. That's tough. And they have legacy clients. They have legacy systems for a reason, and maybe they existed for a reason a long time ago. But sometimes a fresh start is actually a good thing. You get the chance to adopt all these amazing technology. I had no idea some of these timekeeping tools were out there, chatbot tools, all these amazing things that are going on in Silicon Valley and elsewhere that I can implement all on my own. I really appreciate it. And so far, it's worked out really well. Went from one attorney to 7 attorneys in a matter of just a few years. And it's just keeping these attorneys are getting busier and busier. Sometimes we bring in another case, we send it over the team chat and say, who wants this new case? And they're all swamped. And so it's almost like it's ready for another attorney. And that just seems to be the story here, because the clients really like the predictable outcome of technology, and the employees like working with it.
So that's fantastic to hear that the firm is growing. And also, I just want to touch on the fact that you mentioned implementation. And I want to talk a little bit now about your story with LawDroid, so that just so everyone knows, what we helped you to implement is a lead capture bot, which exists on the website. It engages people in that initial sales conversation to get them into your pipeline. And what I want to ask you is, what were some of the challenges that you had with managing and capturing leads prior to implementing LawDroid?
Well, that's a good question. I did notice with our last chatbot, some of the integrations didn't work. We were not able to correctly connect that chatbot with Clio Grow, our intaking software, and make it more robust. I mean, maybe it worked. Sometimes it worked on a basic level, not always. But even when it did work on a basic level, we weren't able to make it any faster, any better, and bring in more information into the right fields. And those fields are the way that you run your business. That's how you know the variations about your case. That's how you know, in my case, usually the property address is going to be most important. It's not just their names. Could be about conflict checks, running those in a through our systems. They may spot the conflict and say, this name already exists in your system, you should check, or this address already exists in your system. So um, being able to have a program that works with our technology, it was a seamless transition to get it up and running. Um, it was back within a day from Tom Martin, and we just had no complaints. So we have never had that experience with any other company. We tried, I think, 2 other chatbots before we arrived at this one. That's been a great experience.
Has it also been a better experience from like a pricing standpoint? Like, have you found that it's
Oh,
more affordable with our approach?
well, Tom, as long as you're going to ask the question, I'm going to tell you a little story. A competitor of yours was on a phone call, a Zoom call with me, and told me that they price theirs like a Mercedes. And I said, okay, so can you tell me why yours is like a Mercedes? And I guess theirs is a Honda. And I said, we price ours like a Mercedes. I said, I don't understand. That's what I'm asking. Why is it so expensive? They had no answer whatsoever. They were going to charge us something like $1,000 a month for something that did the same thing that LawDroid did. And LawDroid is, I don't think, is $1,000 a month. It's less than that. And so it didn't make any sense. So if you start comparing around and asking what they really do, uh, it's already available at LawDroid. Yes, can it be more expensive if you want human interactions, which I'm not even sure is necessarily a good thing. I think it's maybe it might be depending on certain practices, maybe, but the automated interactions should capture virtually everything, and you can watch those chat scripts to see what they don't capture and add a few variations if that's really appropriate. But in terms of the pricing, I don't know why anybody would not be using these chatbots. People really like interacting with them. They like the conversational nature of them. And why would you have a website that wouldn't capture these type of leads? It's a very not obtrusive little chatbot icon on the right corner. If somebody wants to click on it, they can. If they don't want to click on it, they don't have to. And if you're somebody like me who puts a lot of free informational resources online and you bring in a lot of traffic, I mean, I think we're over 1,000 users a day. I think we get something like 30,000 visitors a month. All we needed are just a few that are really interested, and everyone else gets the stuff for free. I know a lot of attorneys read my blog, and I know because I've seen it. I have a complaint on there for partition, and I receive that complaint about 60 or 70% of the time when I get a call from a defendant about a partition complaint. So I know that they're reading this, and I know they're enjoying it. I know they haven't found anything better, and that's fine. But really having that technology that can interact and say, "Hey, do you want to chat? Do you want to chat with our people and become part of our team?" It works. It really works. You got to try it.
Thank you so much for saying that. I think, that's what we're trying to accomplish here at LawDroid. We're trying to empower solo and small firm lawyers to do more with less. And it sounds like you're having a fantastic experience with that. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, this is not something that can be done working at a large law firm with a bunch of other attorneys who are, doing their own practice, and great for them. But if you have a niche that really works for you, it might be holding you back more than it's helping you to be part of a big organization. There's so much online. You really got to look at the Clio app directory. I got to say, Clio app directory has so many resources for everything.
Yeah, there's lots of great apps within the Clio ecosystem. And yeah, just one look through the directory with its integration partners, there's a wealth of applications that could help.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And even if sometimes I used to think that I needed everything needed to be in there, it doesn't actually need to be in there because a lot of Clio connects with Google. Will bring all your contacts over. Anything else that connects with Google can work with your system. So we have phone systems, voice over IP, that are not part of that Clio app directory. But as long as it connects via Google Contacts, Google Gmail, what have you, that works.
So would it be fair to say that LawDroid's lead capture bot has contributed to your practice's efficiency and growth?
Oh, there's no question that it is responsible for 20 to 40% of the leads that we capture. Um, People really like that interaction. So if you're receiving, 20 leads a month, you add a chatbot, you might be looking at, 30, 35 leads. Why would you not do that? And then if you've already made the choice to choose a chatbot, why would you be paying $1,000 a month when you can pay a lot less than that and get the same result? The way that the automated scripts work, your practice, and Tom Martin can implement those into a chat script, and voila! If you have any errors with that chat script, or not errors, but where somebody doesn't know where to click, doesn't know what to say, you can create another variation of it. Other than that, it'll work itself right through your system.
So would you be willing to recommend LawDroid to other law firms or lawyers that might be listening to this?
I don't know why I didn't switch years earlier. Absolutely, this is a great program. You're losing money by not using it. It's really just, it's so inexpensive to capture those leads. If you're somebody who has a lot of visitors on your website, a lot for a lawyer could be 100 a day. I mean, those are valuable views that you're getting. These are people thinking about buying a very expensive service. You should absolutely be capturing their information if they want to provide it to you, and providing it and capturing in whatever manner you can, whether it's a contact form or a chatbot. Phone calls are okay, but they're very time intensive, and a lot of them are not that good. So you're paying somebody to answer those calls that maybe you didn't even want. So having that chatbot bring in that lead is a great idea.
So you've had your own journey with starting your own law firm and building and growing it to be successful. What advice would you have for lawyers who are thinking right now about starting their own law firm?
Um, I think it's easier than they think. You do need to have a little bit of business skills, and there will be the occasional client who maybe wants to push you around or um, demand that you take some discount, but you just push back and they say fine, or some kind of crazy thing that happens. This happens to any business owner, um, and you just got to be prepared for that. But you learn through experience, and a lot of times the salespeople will guide you through what to do. So maybe you meet somebody who does chatbot services, and you say, "Gosh, what else could have you heard about any other success? Yeah, yeah, you got to try this guy. He's really good." And the salespeople will help you implement that product. You don't have to be a genius to figure this out. They're making money off you signing up for them, and they will guide you through the process of having to use it, whether it's QuickBooks or Clio or LawDroid or what have you.
Based upon your experience, how do you see the future of law practice evolving? Do you think more people will be doing what you're doing?
I think that there are so many niches within the legal industry all throughout every practice, everything that seems like a practice, there is a sub practice within it. Whether it's my practice, it's just a sub practice of real estate that maybe 5% of real estate is this practice, but I'm just capturing that 5%. Think about your practice as a lawyer and think about what are you really good at. There's going to be more and more niche practitioners because it's so much easier with the internet to find those people who need just that service that you're really, really good at. I think that's going to happen a lot in the future.
So there's riches in the niches.
Absolutely. And it's a lot more fun. You don't even realize how little you know until you really become a niche practitioner and realize, wow, my opposing counsel really has no idea the broad scope of this field and where within this case this is. And I can convince the judge this is a very easy case. And sometimes I know it's a hard case and say, oh boy, maybe I should settle, right? But being able to spot that and know that that's only going to come through repetition.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience about your approach to practicing law or your law firm?
Uh, I just think there's going to be so many possibilities to make so many niche fields that I think that that general practice and more people are going to say this guy doesn't really or gal doesn't really know what they're doing. They do so many different fields and they're really not great at any of them. They're going to find people like me, and that's what people are finding right now. I hear this every day. Sometimes people switch attorneys and say, oh, "Gosh, I don't know how I didn't find you the first time," and I can't believe I wasted 6, 8 months and tens of thousands of dollars on an attorney that didn't produce anything. I think you're going to see a lot more niche practitioners in the future.
How can our audience keep in touch with you and learn more about your practice?
If you go to talkovlaw.com, that's TALKOVLAW.com, you will find more than you ever wanted to know about partition law. At this point, we have about 300 articles on partition law from every angle that you could imagine or not imagine. And every statute, every article, we have as many angles as we can get. And I think you're going to find more than you ever want to know about partition law.
Well, Scott, I want to thank you so much for your time and insights today.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Key takeaways here. There's riches in the niches, and using technology to innovate and make it so that you could work smarter, not harder, is really where it's at. So thanks again, Scott.
Tom, it's 5 o'clock. It's time for me to go. I don't work too late anymore. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next episode.